Welcome back to the Messy Farm. In this episode, we'll be exploring diversity, including the diversity of produce within farms and how regenerative agriculture can improve biodiversity.
Diverse and messy farms, free from expansive monocultures, foster vibrant ecosystems where flora and fauna can thrive. By embracing biodiversity and varied crops, farmers can boost produce growth, enhance farm resilience, and create healthier environments for all life forms.
Apart from being able to grow fruit and, in the future, vegetables, some of the goals that we have is to do things like put hazelnut trees in that are inoculated with truffles and start harvesting truffles. We want to encourage the ground layer and herb layer underneath our orchard to become as biodiverse as possible. Lots of beautiful little flowers, different types of grass, and create a resilience, amazing resilience, so that we don't have to come through and do ploughing and tilling and things like that that disturb the soil microbiology. And what that means is that when a drought comes or when a flood comes, we've got so much biodiversity there that we'll lose some species during those periods, but others are able to fill that gap when times of stress come. And when that stress leaves, then we'll be able to increase that biodiversity again. As we want to do with the ground layer in our orchard, we want to do with our insect populations, we want to do with our native fauna, our birds, all of the native species that we have in and around this area. Because the more biodiverse our farm is, the more resilient it becomes. And therefore, for us as farmers, we become more resilient, and we can translate that to economy as well, where we become more financially resilient in times of stress. So we're really linking that all together through the regenerative agriculture process. We are in the apple orchard at Messy Farm, and what you can see here is the difference of how we manage our apple orchard. Underneath our trees, we do not use sprays to keep the weeds down, and what that means is we keep a different type of grass growing in the shade to that in the middle of the lane, which provides habitat for different grasses and herbs. And all that means is that we have great fodder for our sheep and we have amazing biodiversity for our insects. The work we are doing at Messy Farm to improve biodiversity is a small example of the work that numerous farmers, researchers, not-for-profit organisations and other landholders are doing across Australia to help bring nature back into the balance and to combat the biodiversity crisis.
When we think about biodiversity in a global context, the last couple of decades, people have realised that we're in a biodiversity crisis. Now, what that means is that we're losing biodiversity at a really rapid rate. So biodiversity is really complex, but when we think about biodiversity, it's got different levels to it and different layers. So one layer is the number of species, one layer is the kind of how all the species work together in a system, and another layer is how they're all structured together that looks at the building blocks of a puzzle. So you need all the pieces to make the system work. So if we think about biodiversity as a bicycle wheel, and if we look at that wheel as the fully functioning ecosystem, the wheel will still function if we take one spoke away or two spokes away from that wheel. But as soon as we start removing more than the number of spokes, all of a sudden the wheel will collapse. And biodiversity is essentially that entire wheel. As soon as we remove elements of that biodiversity, whether it's a species or whether it's an ecological process, as soon as the wheel hits a tipping point, the wheel will collapse and we can't actually ride the bicycle anymore.
Co-planting diverse crops together enhances soil health, reduces pest pressure and increases resilience to climate challenges. By moving beyond monocultures, farmers can create more sustainable and productive agricultural systems.
Those 15 or 20 varieties that you enjoy in your supermarkets, that's the stuff we grow, with the possible exception of potatoes. We gave that a crack, but that really didn't work for us. So we have adapted what really works for us from a production system, but also what grows well in this particular climate. So lettuce, pumpkins, tomatoes, dill, thyme, rocket. We also sell parsley grown hydroponically. All that sort of stuff, leafy greens plus. In the time we have spare, we're not farming. We do our best to try to control weeds and the like, and we mainly focus on the remnant veg because we're in a beautiful part of the world and there's still a lot of remnant veg in reasonable nick that would be absolutely worth conserving going forward as things change, particularly for wildlife corridors, because you get up early in the morning, the bird life's incredible. There's plenty of marsupials and things bumping around, so it's a beautiful place to farm. But looking for partnerships, and we have a really good one with the Quoll Society. We're making the first significant step with replanting and regenerating corridors between the remnants on our block and next door who have left their area intact.
We work on a variety of projects here in the Granite Belt. Probably our flagship project is our couple of planting projects that we've been conducting over the last 12 months. So earlier this year we planted 16,000 trees and shrubs across 25 properties here in the Southern Downs, and that's all aimed at improving property scale connectivity for spotted tail quolls and other threatened animals as well. And we plan on planting another 12,000 plants over the next 12 months. We know from our GPS tracking that spotted tail quolls don't really like crossing open areas of more than about 100 metres in length, so similar to the area you can see behind me here. While it might not look like a big open area in the big scheme of things, it can actually provide a barrier to quoll movement through the landscape. So not only will our planting projects help the endangered spotted tail quoll, there's a plethora of other threatened species here in the Southern Downs who will also benefit from our revegetation projects. Our aim here is to link up patches of remnant vegetation on this property and the neighbouring property, the tree line you can see behind me here. So while behind us it looks absolutely stunning at the moment with that beautiful sea of yellow, that's actually Coreopsis, an invasive species. So as these plants you can see around me begin to grow and produce shade, they'll actually shade out that Coreopsis species, and that's when we'll start to get native ground covers and subshrubs coming in naturally and really building up that floristic native biodiversity.
In Queensland, protecting biodiversity on private property is absolutely essential. With only about 8.5% of our vast state being protected in national parks and other designated areas, it's up to us to step up on private lands. To preserve our unique wildlife and plants, especially those threatened species, we need to put in extra effort. By working together on private properties, we can help safeguard and boost these vital populations, keeping Queensland's incredible biodiversity thriving.
There's so many things that private landholders can do to protect and even enhance biodiversity on their properties. Now, probably the biggest thing is retaining what's already there. If we go and plant a tree behind us or plant a forest, it's going to take decades or even centuries to get all of those attributes that make remnant forest the habitat that's suitable for a lot of species. So protecting what's already there, those remnant patches, even individual remnant trees, is absolutely critical. Of course, once you've done that, revegetation is a fantastic option. We really want to expand those areas of native bush. Another big thing with remnant is keeping livestock out of them. So if you think of a beautiful natural mature forest, you've got all sorts of layers in there. You've got the canopy, the sub-canopy, you've got the shrub layer, you've got the ground layer as well. It's really diverse and really structurally complex as well. By allowing livestock into those areas, what you do is you end up denuding those lower shrub layers that are critical for things like small mammals, and a lot of our little woodland birds as well depend on thick scrub for their nesting and protection from predators. So by protecting those areas, keeping livestock out, we're actually expanding and enhancing the biodiversity in those areas. One of the key attributes in mature remnant forest is tree hollows. So there's around 130 species in southern Queensland that depend on tree hollows for some part of their life cycle, and it's going to take a minimum of 80, but probably more like 100 to 150 years to produce hollows large enough to support a lot of the species that we get around here, such as endangered greater gliders. So what we do to fill that gap is we actually install artificial hollows, so nest boxes, and we're going to do that across the property here just to give our arboreal marsupials and our birds as well somewhere to live while the forest that we plant reaches maturity. The key principle of regenerative agriculture is not just to sustain and maintain the biodiversity that already exists across these properties, but it's actually to enhance and improve it.
Back at the Messy Farm, we're lucky to work alongside researchers and not-for-profit organisations to adopt best practice methods for farming and for conservation. Over the coming year, we'll be taking many of these steps that we have learned through this journey to improve crops and biodiversity on our farm. In the next episode, we'll take a deeper look into the critical piece of the diversity puzzle, pollinators.
Do I just eat this?
Yes.
Oh, yum! It actually tastes like snow peas.
Snow peas. Funny that.
Would you believe it?